You've probably noticed it takes a little longer to get going in the morning than it used to. Not dramatic, just different. And you've started wondering if that's just what 55 looks like now. My guest today has spent his career studying that machinery, specifically the tiny power plants inside every one of your cells and what happens to them as we get older. He's going to walk us through something he calls your mito reserve, and why the way most people try to fix afternoon fatigue is targeting the wrong problem entirely. Please welcome Dr. David Sinclair, a cell biologist who spent the last 15 years researching mitochondrial health in aging muscle and the author of The Second Engine. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Decker. Happy to be here.
Before we dive in, got a quick personal reason you ended up in this specific corner of biology?
Honestly, it started with watching my own energy change in my 40s and realizing the explanations I was getting from general wellness advice didn't match what I knew was happening at the cellular level, so I went looking for the real mechanism. That became the whole career.
All right, before we get into it, drop in the comments how many hours of actual real sleep you got last night, not what you tell people, what you actually got. So let's start basic. What is actually happening inside our cells in our 50s and 60s that makes mornings feel different?
So every cell in your body has these structures called mitochondria. Think of them as tiny power plants. Their whole job is converting the food you eat into usable energy. Starting around your mid-40s, two things tend to happen. You have fewer of them, and the ones you have run less efficiently. It's not a cliff, it's a slope. But by your early 60s, in general, what we tend to see is a fairly noticeable drop in usable cellular energy output compared to your 30s.
Wait, say that again? Fewer power plants and the ones left are worse at their job?
Exactly. It's like a city losing power plants while the remaining ones also start running on lower grade fuel. That's why it's not just I'm tired, it's I'm tired, and things that used to bounce back quickly now take longer to recover. Here's what most people are getting wrong about this, though they treat the fatigue as the problem to solve directly. Coffee, energy drinks, sugar, but that's patching the symptom, not the power plant.
Okay, but I've always been told this is just what happens. It's genetics, it's aging, nothing to be done. Is that fair?
It's partly fair. There is a baseline decline that's just biology, but the size of that decline is much more within your control than people assume. This is the core of what I call your mito reserve, building up mitochondrial density and quality before you need it, the way you'd build savings before a downturn rather than scrambling during one.
Okay, so practically speaking, what actually builds that reserve?
The single strongest lever, in general clinical reasoning terms, is a specific kind of movement sustained, moderate effort cardio, sometimes called zone 2 training. Picture a pace where you could hold a conversation but you're breathing noticeably. Somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 sessions a week, 30 to 45 minutes each. That specific intensity signals your cells to actually build new mitochondria, not just burn through the ones you have.
So it's not about going harder, it's about a specific sustainable pace several times a week. Right, it's a dial you can actually turn, not a genetic sentence.
Round 2, and this is a good one because I think a lot of our audience has been down this aisle at the pharmacy. Is the whole mitochondria-boosting supplement world mostly marketing? A lot of it, yes. There are compounds that show real promise in early research, but the marketing has run way ahead of the evidence. Think of it like trying to fix a badly wired house by buying a fancier light bulb. The bulb isn't the problem.
That's a pretty blunt answer from someone in the wellness space.
I'd rather be blunt than sell someone a bottle that does less than a brisk walk 3 times a week.
So what's actually being left out of the supplement conversation?
The uncomfortable truth is that the biggest levers, exercise, sleep, and not overeating, aren't things you can put in a bottle and sell for $40 a month. There's no 15-minute appointment slot built for explaining this properly, so let's actually do it here. Supplements are, at best, a small assist on top of the fundamentals, not a replacement for them.
But don't some of these ingredients have real research behind them?
Some do, in early and limited studies, but shows promise in a small trial is very different from proven to reverse cellular aging, which is often how it's marketed. I'd rather someone spend that $40 a month on a gym pass.
So if someone's currently spending on supplements instead of the basics, what's the actual fix?
Redirect the budget and the mental energy toward the 3 fundamentals: movement, sleep, and not chronically overeating for 8 to 12 weeks before adding anything else. You'll likely notice a difference in energy within that window, in a way no supplement alone tends to deliver.
So, basics first, real trial period, then reassess, not a bottle as a shortcut. This actually builds on what we just talked about with the Zone 2 training because I want to ask, does the type of exercise matter or is movement just movement?
Type matters more than people think. Different intensities send different signals to your cells. Zone 2, sustained cardio, specifically triggers what's called mitochondrial biogenesis, literally the birth of new mitochondria. Higher intensity interval work in shorter bursts tends to improve how efficiently your existing mitochondria function. Think of it like the difference between building more power plants versus upgrading the ones you've got.
So, you actually want both?
Ideally, yes, a base of steady, moderate cardio most of the week, with 1 or 2 short, harder sessions mixed in. But if someone can only do one thing, I'd start with the steady, sustainable kind. It's gentler on joints, easier to stick with long term, and it's the piece most people in their 50s and 60s have dropped entirely.
What's the actual number here? How much is enough?
In general, aiming for roughly 150 minutes a week of that moderate conversational pace effort is a reasonable target that's just over 20 minutes a day. That's not a typo, and it's less than most people assume it takes to see a real shift.
So, a brisk enough walk that you're breathing hard but could still talk most days of the week. That's the actual prescription. We're just past the halfway point, and honestly, the supplement myth busting alone was probably worth the listen. A lot of us have a cabinet full of bottles doing less than a daily walk. But next, we're getting into sleep and fasting, and there's a specific overnight process your cells run that most people are accidentally blocking without knowing it.
If nobody's ever explained to you why that afternoon energy crash creeps in the way it does, hit subscribe. This is exactly the kind of thing we dig into every week. If you know someone who's been living on coffee and vitamins trying to fix their energy, send them this episode. And honestly, if you've got a question for Dr. Sinclair that we haven't covered yet, drop it in the comments right now. We pull from these every episode, and yours might be the one he answers next time. All right, sleep and fasting. What's actually going on overnight in terms of mitochondrial health? During deep sleep, your cells run a cleanup process called mitophagy, essentially, identifying and clearing out damaged mitochondria so they don't drag down the healthy ones. Think of it like a nightly inspection crew clearing out broken equipment from the power plant floor. If sleep is chronically short or fragmented, that inspection never fully happens, and damaged mitochondria start piling up.
That's wild. So bad sleep isn't just making you tired the next day, it's letting damaged cell parts accumulate?
Exactly. And this is where I'd push back a little on the fasting trend, too. People assume you need extreme fasting windows to trigger this cleanup process. In general, what the evidence I'd point to suggests is that a simple, consistent overnight gap of around 12 hours between your last meal and your first one the next day is enough to support this process for most people. You don't need 16 or 18 hours.
So say, finishing dinner by 7, breakfast at 7 the next morning, that's the target?
That's plenty for most people. The extreme versions can work for some, but they're not required, and for a lot of folks over 50, they can backfire, especially if it disrupts blood sugar stability or medication timing.
Skeptic check, isn't more fasting always better, if a little is good?
No, and that's a real misconception. More isn't automatically better here. Consistency matters more than duration. A reliable 12-hour overnight window most nights beats an occasional extreme fast that you can't sustain.
Okay, so practically speaking, what does someone actually change tonight?
Pick a consistent dinner cutoff time, protect 7 to 8 hours of sleep opportunity, and keep the bedroom cool and dark enough that you're not waking repeatedly through the night. That consistency is what lets the overnight cleanup process actually finish its job. So consistent eating window, protected sleep, cool dark room, not extreme fasting, just consistency. One more for you. What would you actually tell someone to do this week, starting today? If someone came to me with exactly the fatigue we opened with, I'd tell them, start a 25-minute walk at a pace where you're breathing but could still hold a conversation 4 days this week. Pick a dinner cutoff time and stick to it every night, even weekends. And go to bed 20 minutes earlier than you think you need to. That's it, no supplements, no overhaul. Just those 3, consistently, for 2 weeks.
So, if there's one thing you want people to walk away with today?
If there's one thing to remember from today, it's this: your energy at 55 isn't fixed. It's mostly a function of a handful of daily inputs you actually control, and the fix is almost never the expensive one.
All right, let's make this concrete. Starting this week, 1. A 25 to 45-minute walk at conversational pace, 4 days a week. 2. Pick a dinner cutoff time and hold it every night, including weekends. 3. Protect 7 to 8 hours of sleep opportunity and keep the room cool and dark. 4, and this one's easy to miss if you drink coffee late in the day, That alone can quietly wreck the sleep piece, even if you fall asleep fine, so cut caffeine by early afternoon. 5. Give it a real 2-week trial before deciding it's not working.
One safety note before we go, if you're on blood sugar medication, especially insulin or sulfonylureas, don't extend fasting windows without talking to your doctor first, since a longer overnight gap can shift how those medications behave and increase the risk of a low blood sugar episode overnight.
You can find the research we're referencing in the show notes. This naturally leads into a question we didn't fully get to today: how strength training specifically factors into this same mitochondrial picture, separate from the cardio piece we covered. That's a big enough topic that it deserves its own episode, and we'll link it here once it's up. Before you go, drop in the comments one specific thing about your energy that's changed in the last 5 years that you haven't really told anyone. And if you've still got a question for Dr. Sinclair we didn't get to today, put it below. We'll be pulling from these for a future episode. Thank you so much for walking us through this Dr. David Sinclair, cell biologist and author of The Second Engine. Really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Decker.
And to everyone listening, we'll see you next time.